There's a strange moment that happens as you grow older. Not all at once, not dramatically, just quietly. One day you wake up, and something inside you changes. The things you once chased so desperately no longer seem important. The noise that once filled your life starts to feel exhausting. And the people you once tolerated suddenly become unbearable. Nobody really prepares you for that part of aging. We're taught plenty about ambition, about productivity, about success, about earning more money and building a life, but very few people ever talk honestly about peace. And after years of retirement, I think I finally understood something that took me an entire lifetime to learn. Most people are not tired because life is hard. They're tired because they spend decades living in ways that go against their natural peace. Now, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live. I don't have the perfect answer to happiness, and I'm certainly not pretending to be wiser than anyone else. But retirement has a way of revealing truths that are very difficult to see when you're younger, because younger life is loud. You're constantly moving, constantly working, constantly worrying, constantly proving yourself. And when all of that finally slows down, you begin to notice things you never had time to notice before. You realize how much of your life was spent simply enduring stress, enduring pressure, enduring routines, enduring people. That last one is perhaps the biggest shock of all, because one of the greatest freedoms retirement gives you has nothing to do with money, holidays, golf courses, cruises, gardening, or afternoon naps. It's the freedom to finally choose who has access to your energy. And honestly, I think that changes everything. For most of adulthood, we live inside systems that force human interaction, whether we want it or not. Offices, meetings, workplace politics, fake smiles, forced conversations before you've even had your first cup of coffee in the morning. You sit beside people for years who, under normal circumstances, you would never willingly spend time with. But adulthood doesn't give you much choice. You need the income. You need stability. You need to support your family. You need to pay bills. You need to survive. So you learn how to tolerate personalities that slowly drain the life out of you. People who gossip endlessly. People who thrive on drama. People who compete over absolutely everything. People who complain constantly but never change. People who monitor others because they have no peace within themselves. People who cannot sit quietly for 5 minutes because silence forces them to confront who they really are. And after enough years, you become exhausted in ways sleep cannot fix. I think many people underestimate how emotionally draining modern life actually is. It's not just the workload, it's the constant exposure to noise, expectation, interruption, and unnecessary human tension. By the time many people reach retirement, they aren't only physically tired, they're socially tired, emotionally tired, mentally crowded. And yet society tells us the goal is to stay busy, always busy, as though exhaustion itself has become a symbol of importance. But being constantly occupied is not the same thing as living well. In fact, I think many people spend their healthiest years trapped in routines that leave them disconnected from themselves. They wake up early, fight traffic, sit under fluorescent lights, answer emails, attend meetings, pretend to care about problems that mean nothing to them, come home exhausted. Repeat the process for 40 years. And somewhere along the way, they slowly lose themselves. Retirement changes that rhythm completely. At first, it feels strange. You almost feel guilty for slowing down. You wake up in the morning and instinctively think there must be something urgent waiting for you. Some responsibility, some demand, some problem that needs solving. Then gradually, the realization begins to settle in. Your time belongs to you again. That's an incredibly powerful feeling. No manager assessing your productivity, no performance reviews, no pretending to be enthusiastic during pointless meetings, no mandatory social events disguised as team building, no corporate language, no forced optimism, no constant pressure to appear useful every second of the day. Just space. And after a lifetime of pressure, space feels luxurious. That's when many retirees discover something younger people often misunderstand completely. Solitude is not the enemy. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing at all. Loneliness is painful. Solitude is peaceful. There is a huge difference between being abandoned and choosing quiet. And honestly, some of the happiest moments in life become incredibly simple as you get older. Sitting in the garden early in the morning, while the world is still quiet. Walking the dog with no destination in mind. Reading without checking the time. Fishing for hours without speaking. Making a cup of tea and listening to the rain outside the window. Having conversations with people who leave you feeling lighter rather than heavier. These moments sound ordinary when you're younger, but later in life, they begin to feel priceless, especially if you spent your working years in stressful environments where your energy constantly belonged to other people. Healthcare workers, teachers, emergency services, factory workers, military personnel, corporate managers, any profession where your time, emotions, and mental focus were permanently being demanded eventually leaves its mark on you. And after decades of noise, something unexpected happens. You stop craving excitement. You start craving calm. That might be one of the greatest lies society ever sold us. That life is supposed to be loud, fast, competitive, and endlessly stimulating. But peace has a depth that excitement can never give you. And once you experience genuine peace, you become fiercely protective of it. You begin noticing how many things disturb your mind unnecessarily. Arguments, drama, social obligations, pointless competition, people who constantly bring chaos wherever they go. And for perhaps the first time in your life, you realize something liberating. You do not actually have to participate. You can simply step away. There's enormous freedom in that. Freedom in no longer needing approval. Freedom in no longer performing for society. Freedom in realizing you don't owe the world constant availability. Because for most of our lives, we're trained to seek permission. Permission to rest. Permission to travel. Permission to stop working. Permission to take time for ourselves. Think about how strange that really is. Fully grown adults asking another adult whether they're allowed a week off to enjoy their own existence. Retirement quietly breaks that psychological chain. If you want to spend an afternoon doing absolutely nothing, you can. If you want to disappear for a few days and switch your phone off, nobody can stop you. If you want to sit peacefully at home rather than attend another loud social gathering, that is entirely your choice. And eventually, you begin to understand something that younger people rarely believe until they experience it themselves. Time was always more valuable than money. Money matters, of course it does, but time is life itself. And many people sacrifice enormous amounts of life chasing things they barely have time or energy to enjoy. That's the irony of modern adulthood. People buy larger homes they're rarely inside, cars they're too stressed to appreciate, clothes they wear while rushing through lives they secretly dislike. Then retirement arrives, and for the first time in decades, they finally have enough stillness to ask themselves an uncomfortable question. What was all that rushing for? And perhaps that question changes everything. Retirement also reveals which relationships were built on genuine connection and which were simply built on routine. Many workplace friendships quietly disappear, not out of cruelty, but because shared environments often create artificial closeness. Real friendship survives absence. Real friendship survives silence. And as you grow older, your tolerance for shallow relationships becomes smaller and smaller. You stop chasing acceptance. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop arguing simply to protect your ego. You stop attending things purely out of obligation. And there's something deeply peaceful about saying, "No, thank you. I'd rather stay home today." And genuinely meaning it. Not because you hate people, but because you finally discovered the value of protecting your inner calm. I think that may be one of the hidden rewards of aging. You become more selective with your energy, more intentional with your attention, more aware of what truly nourishes your spirit and what quietly destroys it. And strangely enough, life often becomes richer because of that simplicity, not smaller, clearer. You stop fearing silence and begin appreciating it. You stop needing constant distraction. You stop needing the world's permission to simply exist as yourself. And maybe that's the greatest freedom retirement offers. Not freedom from work, freedom from constant interference, freedom from noise, freedom from performance, freedom from unnecessary people, freedom from living according to expectations that never truly belong to you in the first place. Just waking up in the morning and quietly deciding, how would I like to spend my life today? And after a certain age, that kind of peace becomes priceless, because once you finally experience a calm mind after decades of pressure, chaos, and obligation, you never want to lose it again.